If you like music podcasts,
and I do,
you should check out Osiris.
Or as Wu-Tang Clan would say, the Osiris of this podcast ship.
It's a network of 30 music and culture podcasts that dive deep into bands, genres, and artist interviews.
You might enjoy Under the Scales, the Helping Friendly podcast, or Beyond the Pond, all of which go deep into the culture of fish. Do you think they're going to talk about the dreadlocks I had halfway down my back when I used to follow fish, Nick?
I think it's inevitable, and they should have you on as a regular guest.
You can also check out the Broke Down podcast, which explores the rich history of the Grateful Dead. Nick, do you think they're going to explore the time that I literally took a pair of corduroy pants and sewed a bell bottom of patchwork into the side?
I think it would be a crime to not include that at some point. Maybe we can also sneak in their Fear of a Craft Beer Planet, which combines discussion about the beer industry and music.
Osiris is creating and curating music and culture podcasts for passionate fans.
Whether or not you have dreadlocks, you should definitely check them out.
Check them out.
Hi, this is Carrie Brownstein.
This is DJ Premier.
This is Darren Aronofsky.
You got the RZA right here.
Rose McGowan.
Radiohead.
Aisha Tyler.
Tribe Called Quest. Fred Armisen.
Prince Paul.
Javier Munoz. Seth Meyers.
Tracy Cosmos.
Flying Lotus.
Hi, we're Chaim, and you're listening to the Talkhouse podcast.
What's up? What is up? I'm your host, Elia Einhorn. Welcome back to the Talkhouse podcast. And I want to give a big shout out this week to all the fathers out there. This week's show celebrates you. To join me, another father.
Nick Dawson, editor-in-chief of Talkhouse Film, and yes, I have brought life into this world. You're welcome.
Nick, we've put together a very special show this week. Two fathers and sons, both creators, in conversation.
Yeah. No, it's two great pairings. Of course, it's a little weird that it's both two dudes, but one of them had to be a father in each pair.
Yes.
So,
and we did. I want it on the record, Nick. You and I put out a number of asks to daughters and fathers, but for whatever reason, it just didn't come in.
yeah. Next year.
Next year. Now, I am super psyched about the two talks that happened for today's episode. We have a man you might recognize from our intro, not just this week, but every week, Prince Paul, a.k.a. Paul Sr., and his son, DJ PForReal, a.k.a. Paul Jr., who DJs for Lil Uzi Vert. These are two dudes at the forefront of hip-hop production over the years. We've also got
Larry Fessenden, a legend of the horror scene, and his son, Jack, who is absurdly young and absurdly talented. We'll get to that in a little bit, but it's kind of unfair.
Let's kick things off with our first talk from the Pauls. Now, Nick, I know I always shout this out when Prince Paul comes on the show. He's been on with DJ Premier. He's been on with the Flaming Lips, Wayne Coyne. But Paul is seriously and legit a legend of hip-hop production. He's been a member of Stetsasonic, Handsome Boy Modeling School, Gravediggaz, and recently BROOKZILL with Ladybug Mecca. Paul has produced a number of hip-hop's most iconic records, including all of my favorite De La Soul joints. Paul's most recent record was The Redux. That was in 2017.
Yeah, I love the dude. He is a legit legend and also just like the nicest guy.
The nicest dude and so funny.
And if you need any sort of convincing that talent runs in the family, beats are in his blood, DJ PForReal, Paul's son, is killing it right now. He's Lil Uzi Vert's DJ, and based on everything that we can tell, he is absolutely crushing it right now.
He really is, man. DJ PForReal has been spinning since he was 8 years old. He started producing at only 13, and since then, dude has rocked some of the most iconic stages and festivals in the world.
Awesome.
The two Pauls caught up earlier this month, and I have to say, this conversation was very insightful and very, very funny.
Their chemistry is way better than my chemistry with my dad, I gotta say. Like, I don't know, they're funny and they interact so well, and there's some moments of like revelation, I think, as well, which is pretty special.
There are. We get to hear about their collaboration, about pushing one's comfort zone and never taking the straight path. They also chop it up on faking it till you make it, and Paul's first ever DJ gig, opening up for Wu-Tang's The Jizza.
Wow.
DJ PForReal joined us from a studio in his hometown of Atlanta. While Prince Paul was a hell of a good sport, the studio that we'd put him in Long Island didn't fucking open on time, Nick. The engineer didn't show up on time, so Paul called in from his cell phone. This is a man who makes shit happen.
He makes shit happen.
Should we roll it?
Let's roll the tape.
Hey, what's up? This is Prince Paul, and I'm here on this Father's Day Talkhouse special that we're doing with my son, DJ PForReal.
Pow, pow.
Say hi, PForReal.
Hey, how's everybody doing?
You can call me Paul Sr. He is Paul Jr. And I have a couple of questions for this Father's Day special. The first one is, what is the most important artistic or otherwise lesson that we learn from each other? You want to go first?
So basically what I have learned from Dad, basically, right?
Yeah.
I'm going first.
Yeah, of course
okay.
You're going first.
All right. I mean, what haven't I learned? I mean, I grew up with you, from washing the dishes to to recording in the studio, right? I mean, but I guess the most artistic thing I learned from you is I guess stepping out of your comfort zone and stepping out of the box as far as like production wise or even DJing. You know what I'm saying? Like even based on your production, you never stayed in, I guess, the straight path. You always did your own thing, which I guess was made you great in your own lane. You know what I'm saying? I kind of adapted that to, the same thing, especially in my DJing, because, if I bit off everybody else, I guess I wouldn't be in the position I am now, right? And not to sound cocky, but yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, look at that. I'll take credit for all of that except them dishes. Them dishes was crusty after you washed them.
Yo, rewatch them joints again. It wasn't right.
Hey, man, at least that's the one thing I taught you. Well, that's flattering. I would have to say what I've learned from you is probably a generational thing, and that is you can actually fake it till you make it. You know what I'm saying? And I say that respectfully. I've seen you tell kids like, yo, I'm a nice DJ and I'm this and I'm that, and didn't have the skill set yet, but fooled everybody to believe that you were nice.
Yep.
Took the time to learn how to get nice, which was a few years, and then actually looked up to your own height. I've never in my life ever, I never thought that'd be possible. I always thought that was going against the grain from how I was raised, you know what I'm saying? and music and any other thing. But you've taught me that you can actually do that. Like you can advertise that you're an expert at something, not be an expert, but work your way to it. You know, and that's beautiful. That's beautiful.
You know what? It's letting everybody know that one day you will be great and you could do it if you put your mind to it. You know what I'm saying? And that's exactly what it was.
You know what? You willed it into existence.
Yeah, I willed it into existence. Exactly. I'm
gonna go to the next question.
All right.
It says, how was it to experience your father or child and their life through their art?
How was it to experience their life through their art?
Yeah.
So I would say just based on because, I grew up with you and I seen you make a lot of the stuff that, especially like psychoanalysis and, the De La stuff, Gravediggaz stuff. Of course, I was a kid, but I still seen you make it. But what I remember you making for whatever reason is the Politics of the Business album, right? And for some reason, as a kid, when I watched you work on that album, it made me want to, I guess, zoom in and focus on, what you were actually doing and, stuff like that. And then from there on, I was kind of locked in, like, hey, I want to do this. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, I want to produce. I want to take this serious. I want to DJ because this looks fun. And I actually like watching you do it. You know what I'm saying? So
I would have to say for me, experiencing, I guess, through your art, there's a few things you've done. There was, when you used to do those stories on MySpace.
Oh man, I forgot about that.
like randomly make up stupid stuff.
Yeah.
And really funny and put sound effects to it.
Yeah.
And then actually get a following on MySpace. Yo.
I forgot about that.
I thought that was incredible. It was enough for me to experience and watch that and want to do Negroes on Ice, which we did, which was really an offshoot of you doing your MySpace thing. But and I would say another proud moment for me is watching you on stage with Lil Uzi and and commanding the crowd. I was like, wow, this is this is truly amazing. I never thought that would happen in that capacity. You know what I'm saying? Like let alone myself, not shorting you, but I was just surprised. I was like, yo, there's like thousands of kids. And they're listening to him. That's amazing. Yo, my son is a grown-up. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, but you know what's crazy?
What's that?
Yeah, every time I DJ, I always think about when we went to Paris or whatever we was at. And I was in that club.
Oh, yeah.
I was like 12, 13 in that club, and there was all the women dancing on top of the tables and everything. And you was like, look, P, look how the crowd reacts to every song I play. And from every time I DJ, I think I don't think of that same exact time, but that's what I think about. Like, watch how the crowd reacts when I drop this song or this song, whatever. So that one time in my life, that moment in my life when you did that little Zach, when you told me what was gonna go on and what's gonna happen when each song played, I carry that on to every time I do anything. Period.
Wow. How do you like that, man? That was a teaching moment. Taking your son into a club, trying to disguise him as over 21 in Paris.
I was like, what, 12, 13? Yeah, right?
And he was a child. You know, but I'm glad it was a valuable lesson, you know, and or at least a learning experience. And that's what I was there to teach you. And it was fun.
It was fun.
Okay, and here's our final question, and that is, what is your favorite memory of the other person's art or process? Perhaps a show, song, film, etc.
Oh man, it's a few. You know, I guess what I just said that time when we was in France and we was in that club, and that was more so of like an eye-opening experience. You know what I'm saying? Like, wow, you know, like if I played this song at this time, you know what I'm saying, that's how the crowd's gonna react. Or if I stop it here and put this song in right here, it made it more mathematical to me in my head. You know what I'm saying? Because I actually seen it live. You know, so that actually like it changed the perspective of DJing for me. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, if I do this at this time, I could change this, and this is how they gonna react if I did. You know what I'm saying? So that's how I kind of incorporate everything into it now, and when I DJ or I do anything. But besides that, when we went to Africa and you went to go speak at Red Bull.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you want to speak at Red Bull. I guess, you know, certain areas, I guess I tend to listen more rather than we're at home chilling in the crib. You know what I'm saying? When you tell me, yeah, you know, I Stetsasonic and De La Soul and Gravediggaz, and I'm listening like, yeah. But I guess when we're in other settings, you know what I'm saying, like out the country or whatever it is, or when you speaking that whatever, I tend to listen more. So I guess that was cool for me, and of course going to South Africa, that was like a big thing for me because that's like I guess for anybody go to South Africa is a big thing, you know, or anywhere out the country, period. But South Africa, and then you speaking to I guess those kids, whatever. That was pretty cool for me. I like that. I kind of like, man, I wanna do this, you know.
Wow, I'm surprised you remembered that.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Because that was a while.
There's a lot of things that you don't think I remember that I remember.
Yeah. Well, I just remember all the good stuff.
Yeah.
But, yeah, man, yo, I took you all over the place, man. Like, look how we're talking, like we got it like that, right? Like, man, I took you to Paris, France, and I took you to South Africa.
Nah. It was spread out through time. So.
No, but hey, man, I still hook you up, man. But I would say for me, I mean, there's a bunch of them. But one that really stuck with me was when you opened up for the Genius. For
really?
The GZA. Yeah, because it was your first real DJ gig on your own.
It was.
Now, mind you, I'm still thinking like you don't have the skills to pay the bill. So I'm waiting for you to fall flat on your face. But I was really impressed when you got your little DJ set together. I still have the playlist. I still have it. You got your little DJ set together, and you put some songs out. I was like, man, I'd never play that, but I didn't want to critique you. I was like, yo, let me let him do his thing. What? How come you went out there in Brooklyn, opened up for the Genius, started DJing, and killed it? I'm like, what?
You know, it's crazy.
With those very with those very songs I said that wouldn't work.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? I'm like, that's not gonna work.
Yeah. I think one of them songs was like a who was it? I can't think. Was it a Biggie song?
Yeah,
I think
it was a Biggie song.
Yeah, it was like a bit, but it was something else too. It was like Doom or something. You was like, that's not gonna work. Oh no, you didn't say you didn't say that. You was like, I never played that. Oh, I never played that before, but hey, it might work. That was more like one of the type of answers. It might work.
You know what it was? It was Biggie's "Give Me the Loot."
Oh yeah, it was "Give Me the Loot." That's exactly what it was. It was "Give Me the Loot."
And people were singing back to it. I was like, yo, that was probably the first gig we did was Negroes on Ice, and that was the first gig you did in front of a big crowd.
Yeah.
I forgot what was it? What was the Knitting Factory in Brooklyn?
Knitting Factory, yep.
Oh man, that's impressive, man. Yeah, after that, I had a newfound respect for you, man. That was
and I was terrified. I remember you got off the stage. You sat in front of the stage and watched me. I was like, "Oh, where you going? Don't leave me."
Hey, now I look at you, man. You DJ in front of thousands of kids. You speak in front of people. You're mad cocky. You know what I'm saying?
I ain't mad cocky.
Extra confident.
I'm confident. There you go. Confident.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess this wraps up the Father's Day special. And I just want to say I have great kids, which is my son right here, PForReal, my firstborn, and also my daughter, Layla, who I would love to have had on this conversation, but she's in school.
Yeah.
And, being smarter than we are.
Right.
But I just want to say, man, it's been real, and I've learned a lot of things that I didn't know on this conversation. So,
and I would like to say thank you, Dad, for showing me the way, and musically, and of course, as being a great father, and yep, and happy Father's Day.
Oh man, thank you. Hey, I would tell you the same, but if I told you the same, that means that you didn't tell me something.
Nah, don't put that into the universe yet. You know what I'm saying?
How about you fathered some DJ style?
Yeah. Right, there you go.
All right, from Prince Paul and DJ PForReal, y'all have a very happy Father's Day. And we are out.
Bang, bang.
I love that. I feel like I can really learn something from those guys. I also want to learn how to do that sound at the end. Bonk, bonk.
I also pretty much just want to hang out with the Pauls all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess we should move on to my dudes.
Let's do it. For the Talkhouse film portion of today's episode, Nick, you and I got to enter a studio that was also a museum of horror memorabilia.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Larry Fessenden's office. We wandered in there not knowing that it would be such a special place. There's books and DVDs wall to wall. There's horror toys and figurines.
Oh my God. I mean, there must have been 200 different figurines from like 5 versions of Godzilla, 4 different aliens. We're going to post a little video I took on our Instagram at Talkhouse.
Yep, we absolutely had to capture the specialness of that place, and you will see that on our socials. Go hit them up.
We also captured the really special relationship that Larry and Jack have.
Yeah, these guys are pretty amazing. I mean, Larry, of course, is a legendary director of low-budget horror movies, from Habit to Wendigo to The Last Winter to his new movie Depraved. And through his company Glass Eye Picks, he's also fostered the careers of a bunch of really great directors, from Ty West to Kelly Reichardt. And he also, because he does everything, he also acts, and was most recently seen in the new Jim Jarmusch movie The Dead Don't Die as, I believe, a zombie.
Well, Nick, you talk about the way he's fostered careers. One of the careers that he's fostered most closely, his son.
Yeah, Jack. And, this kid is pretty remarkable. I call him a kid because he's, 19 now.
He's in college.
Just barely out of high school. And, he started directing his first feature at age 15, finished it at 16. This movie, Stray Bullets. And he's now prepping his second feature, Foxhole. And he's just kind of a remarkable kid. He's way more mature, both creatively and personally, than anybody I ever knew when I was that age. Just super, super accomplished. And
another multi-hyphenate. He's also got a band that he plays in and produces for called Holiday.
Yeah. And you got a little vinyl gift.
Yeah, Jack gave me one of the records. I can't wait to listen to it, man. Now, Jack and Larry tell some amazing stories, and like the Pauls in our first segment, somehow combine real heartfelt emotion and hilarity.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I really love that kind of combines those things is the fact that Jack still calls Larry Daddy, even when they're on set.
Yes, he does. When we first came in, he said, "Daddy, the Talkhouse is here to see you."
Which is just adorable.
It was very cute.
They touch on so many things, like the very distinctive quality of having two independent filmmakers as your parents, because Jack's mother is Beck Underwood, who's also a stop-motion animator and a production designer. And so growing up in that curious world, which to most people would seem unusual, but growing up around it, Jack was just on set the whole time, and that leads to some great stories about some of the things he did as this precocious little kid interacting with filmmakers and having very strong ideas about whether they're doing the right thing or not.
Yeah, we get to hear about Jack sobbing uncontrollably after a movie he'd been hearing about half his life got made.
Yeah, and that wasn't like 10 years ago. That was like a few months ago. So that's a great story.
And his getting scarred by what Larry was working on.
Pretty inevitable, I think.
Yeah.
Pretty inevitable. There's some great stories about that. Also, why he hasn't seen a bunch of his dad's movies.
Interesting insight there.
Yeah. And Jack's decision to retire as a horror director in his mid-teens.
Let's give a listen.
Let's do it.
I mean, I've grown up in this cinematic household my whole life. My mom is a stop-motion animator and also worked in production design a lot. And my dad makes horror movies. And so I grew up visiting their sets, Stakeland, a very memorable one, Bitter Feast. I had to live in a closet because our house in Woodstock, New York was turned into the house for the crew and also the set. And I remember I drew on the wall murals of cameras and stuff. My mom just texted me a photo of one. I think that was 10 years ago this summer. So yeah, I've grown up in an independent film household my whole life, and now in the last several years, I've been getting more seriously into making films, and I'm lucky because we're my parents' big-time Hollywood producers or something. It might be harder to get my foot in the door that way, but because they're used to making small movies for low budgets, I've been able to sort of become a part of that system myself too, which is really lucky of me. And if I had to think of one thing I've learned from my dad, well, I actually don't know what I'm going to say. So something having to do with that use what you have and what you know, and don't underestimate what you can do with just those things, I guess.
Of course, one doesn't want to bring one's kid into a world of pain and anxiety and yearning, which is all the emotions one has trying to raise money and make these low-budget movies or any kind of movies. I've been lucky enough to work also in the Hollywood system briefly, and it's funny, I always say that it's a hierarchy in showbiz. No matter where you are, you're still yearning for more power, control, and respect. So that's an ongoing experience, actually, of just being an artist. Working with my kid is a great pleasure. I've always liked to mentor young people because I'm extremely opinionated, and the only place I have power is with people who are younger than me. So I can tell them how I think movies should be made, and I follow a model that I base on sort of Hitchcock, which is to say that you design your film. And I think this gives kids a way to understand how to even enter into this strange and multifaceted art form where you have to have a vision. You have to be able to answer, why are we trying to do this? Why should it be a close-up? Why a long shot? So I really love speaking about the language of film. And I think I brought Jack into an ability to think that way, and that gives people their own agency. And a lot of the filmmakers I've worked with have graduated to positions of power, like Ty West and Jim Mickle, Kelly Reichert even, who I worked with when she was just starting out. I very much revere the director in my producing work, and the fact that it's my kid is just sort of an incidental thing. I take off my dad hat, well, a little bit. It's always there a little bit, but mostly I'm just there serving the singular vision and making sure it's not indulgent, which can always happen. Anyway, so that's the process.
It's pretty funny on set because I still call my dad Daddy for whatever reason. So whenever we're doing anything, more professional making movies wise, I still call him Daddy. So then the other crew members ask me, well, can I call him Daddy too?
What were the nicknames on Stray Bullets? We had a funny.
Yeah, well, it was like my friend Quinn was Puppy Bro. I was Prince Bro.
Right, the little prince.
Yeah.
And then what was I? I was
I don't
Daddy
know.
Bro?
Something. Yeah,
Anyway,
that was
dear.
like week 3 nicknames.
TMI.
Well, my dad always likes to say that instead of tossing a ball around when I was young, we would go out with a little point and shoot camera and make movies. And I would have, my friends over, we'd have our Nerf guns out and we'd run around and tell little stories that way. And I eventually made this series called The Endless Search, which was maybe an 8 or 10 part. It's kind of unclear. Some of them have been lost in the archives, but it's a little short film series when I was like 7 through 12 probably, of my friends and I just endlessly wandering around searching for something that we never find, with Nerf guns, of course, and walkie-talkies. And that was through making those films. My dad would shoot them on a little point and shoot camera, and then we'd edit them that day. That's kind of how I learned the craft, how I learned, come up with the idea, shoot it, edit it. We just do these things in a day, and then I'd be able to watch our work, and I was really excited by that.
And I'd explain, for me, it was thrilling because I had a complete cast of people, and all of my camera moves are as carefully crafted as anything I would do in a major feature with a 50-man crew. I just loved being able to think on your feet and say, oh, we're going to start with a close-up, we're going to pan back, and then you guys start running at that exact moment, and then this will become a steady cam shot and all these. It was fantastic. It was good for me. What were you getting at, though, about the endless search?
Oh, I don't know. Just that was one way you taught me how to just do it, go out and do it,
Yeah, and then, the other story, which I do tell maybe too often, is that Jack's first movie was a zombie film, and I was as proud as a father could be. And then after it was over, it was a half-hour movie. It's
my first like real short that I
Right.
made once I was more interested in film. Yeah,
And, it's on iTunes, right?
yeah, it was released with Stray Bullets, and it played at the Woodstock Film Festival despite its length. Yeah,
Right. In fact, the only reason Jack made a feature is because he kept coming up with these half-hour shorts, and his mother said, why didn't you just make a feature if you're going to keep doing this? No one wants to program a half-hour movie. And he came to us a couple days later and said, I have a feature idea. So that was an unfortunate result. But after Jack's zombie movie, he came to me and he said, Daddy, I'm not sure I'm going to make horror movies anymore. And I was heartbroken. And here we are. We're making a war film next, which is bananas.
Yeah, we're entering pre-production on Foxhole, which is going to be my second feature, hoping to shoot in August of this summer, 2019. And
it's a lot of pressure on the producer because it's hard to explain to actors and stuff. Well, we have to shoot in August because he's going back to school.
Yeah. I go back to school like the 29th or something.
One creative memory that stands out for me is we were making Stray Bullets and I was the cinematographer. And Jack is in the movie, so I was shooting it. And we had discussed, obviously, the design of the film. So the frames were basically what Jack had wanted. But it was a great moment when there's the story of a character that I play getting a bullet wound tended to by the 2 other criminals in the story. And because Jack wasn't in that scene, he was able to take the camera. And I feel like it was the moment where he graduated into a filmmaker because he was filming. We had these beautiful old lenses because we wanted sort of a more dreamy aspect to this intimate scene. And and he was doing focus because the room was so small that only he could fit in with the three of us. And it's a sentimental scene anyway because I'm the boss and I'm probably dying and the other guys are trying to help me out and they're going to cut the bullet out. So it had all this great texture and there was a lot of blood and then the music and I'm stammering away. And it was a very sweet scene and intimate, and Jack filmed it. And I swear to God, he grew 2 years. He walked out of there and he's like, that's filmmaking. And
Yeah. No, I do remember that. I even wrote my college essay on that. But I think, on that shoot, I was 15, and, most everyone was older than me, especially, I was working with James LeGros and John Sparadakis, even Kevin Corrigan for a bit, seasoned actors. And so I had to sort of, find my strength throughout the shoot. And that was definitely the moment where I think I did at least the most sort of specific moment that I could cite. And I think it really just had to do, like you said, with my being in there alone without anyone else literally being able to fit into the room. In terms of thinking about my dad as a filmmaker when I was much younger and how that affected me, well, I do remember one time he was in this room editing Skin and Bones, which was just sort of a TV special that he did when I was probably like 8 or something, 7 or 8. And it had, what's his name?
Doug Jones.
Doug Jones as this creepy Wendigo, sort of turned Wendigo guy after he comes back from a hike in the woods gone wrong or something. Anyway, I don't think I've ever actually seen it because it scared me so much. But I remember peeking through that door and seeing him edit it in here. And then it scarred me forever. So it's great that, my dad who makes horror movies was able to, of course, this is bound to happen, just scar me completely as a little lad. But, there's also the memories
to the
of
proud father.
Yeah. And there's also the memories of when, he would show me Hitchcock or Murder on the Orient Express especially scared me because of the flashes in the beginning during the kidnapping scene. Anyway, so old movies that were, critical to my film education when I was like 8 and 9. And sometimes I would have to, come into this room when we were, after I'd gone to bed and sleep on the little couch there because I was too scared. But, it's funny. I haven't seen a lot of my dad's films because I think when I was younger, it was always like against the rules to watch Habit or Wendigo. And now there's really no reason for me not to watch them, but it's like this weird thing where I still haven't seen a lot of them. And yet I know like everything about them. I feel like I know them inside out, except I haven't actually seen the movies yet. And so I really have to get around to doing that.
It's like I've never seen Barry Lyndon. There's some things that you almost savor not having seen yet.
It's true,
you have
yeah.
something to look forward to in life. Not that my movie. Well, yes, me and Kubrick, same shelf in many households. But the thing that you have seen The Last Winter, which is sort of one of the
absolutely.
more bigger buck productions. The other movie we haven't really mentioned that I think was seminal was I Saw the Dead, where I was an actor and I get into the guillotine. And that was kind of quite an amazing shoot. And actually, Beck Underwood, Jack's mother, was the production designer, and it's a period piece, so it's quite an extravagant production. We had horses and goats, and Jack was a little goat boy, and I was being dragged through the public square. And
there's that great story of when I called. Okay, so Glenn McQuaid, the director of I Saw the Dead, a dear Irish friend of ours, they were shooting this scene on Long Island Beach, doubling for, the English beach or whatever. And they had zombies. It was like a big day. And Glenn asked me if I wanted to call action for this shot. And of course, I was really excited. So I wasn't quite sure what to do. I was 8, I think, 7 or 8. But he just said, okay, whenever you're ready. And I said, go. And then everyone kind of like looked at each other, and then they did the shot. Yeah.
Well, actually, I remember on Bitter Feast, which was a very low budget film by Joe Maggio, with Josh Leonard and James LeGros. I remember you started telling Joe what to do, remember, in the street? And you were like, I don't know why you're shooting it this way. I mean, you were like 6 or something.
I was 10. I was 9. That's the one where I lived in the closet.
Right, but we had the
Wait,
New York shoot.
I do not remember that.
Yeah, but well, I mean, I'm sure you don't. You were in the fever of directing, and I had to apologize to Joe and say, I'm sorry about my precocious kid telling you what to do. Oh, dear.
Yeah, I always used to be sort of a bossy kid, but now I think I've let that go. But I do still have a mode I click into when I start explaining my story or something. Like my friends will tell me, like, Jack, like, stop. Like you're clicking into your director mode. Like just tell me what's happening.
Oh my God.
Another memory, which is actually so recent that I haven't even sort of considered it a memory yet, was, shooting Depraved, my dad's movie that he shot about a year ago and had been trying to get made for like a decade. And I remember he first told me the story when we were sitting in a seafood shack in Cape Cod visiting my grandparents, his parents, like many, many summers ago. I was probably like 10 or something. And he told me the story of this modern Frankenstein tale. And I thought it was so cool, of course, and I knew it inside out. Again, never had read the script, but knew the story inside out. And then he was, finally able to make it last year, and he had this crippling back injury, so he was like this hunched over cripple the whole shoot, which was kind of comical but sad. Anyway, so it was so cool to finally watch him work again on something that I had been aware of, how passionate he was about it for so long. And then to go to that set was like so cool for me. I was just going gaga over the whole thing all over again. And then during the premiere, the second the credits started rolling, not during the movie, but the second the movie ended, I burst out in tears uncontrollably. And I needed to like grab onto the person next to me to like find my bearings. Cause I don't know, I think it just hit me so hard. That story that I'd known for so long, I knew how strongly my dad felt about making it and how hard he had worked. And, I was there for every time an famous actor turned him down. I was like, Daddy, did you hear from the Game of Thrones guy? Like,
I remember this fantastic thing. I think I saved it. Speaking of crying now, I'm going to tear up just from my little kid. There was a piece of paper, and he said, I know who's going to play Polidori. And I flipped it over, and he'd printed out a picture of Ray Winstone, which would have been awesome.
I remember that. That was like when Departed was my favorite movie.
Departed. We'd seen Departed so many times that we thought maybe Ray Winstone would be in my picture. Oh, for God's sakes. The dream continues. So as you see, I've raised a delusional child. It's really quite tragic. The father-son bond. Now it can be told.
Larry Fessenden, Jack Fessenden, thank you. It was really, really cool to visit their den and to hang out with those guys.
Really was. And thanks again to the Pauls for joining us here on our special Father's Day extravaganza at the Talkhouse podcast.
Yeah, whether you're a father or just plan on being one soon, happy Father's Day. Hope you have a great day.
Today's show was recorded by a number of people. DJ PForReal was recorded by Luther Banks at Patchwork Studios in Atlanta.
Our own Elliot Einhorn, the man sitting next to me, recorded Larry Fessenden and Jack Fessenden at Fessenden HQ in New York.
And the fabulous witticisms that comprise our intro and outro were recorded by Mark, the producer, here at Hook and Fade Studios in Bushwick, Brooklyn.
Thanks, Mark.
Listeners, make sure to subscribe to the Talkhouse podcast. We have a very cool episode coming up next week.
Indeed, we have Lake Bell in conversation with Santigold.
Boom.
It's a great episode.
The Talkhouse podcast theme song was composed and performed by The Range. We have a few fun pictures from today's episode on our socials. That's at Talkhouse. Nick, on this special Father's Day edition, let's send a little love to the girls who call us father.
Cordelia.
Conway.
We love you.
Love you. Till next week, I'm Elliot Einhorn.
I'm Nick Dawson.
Peace and fathers.
Nailed it.